But so here's my thing though, Cayman. So it looks great. Can't wait to play it. October 20th. Put it on your fucking calendars. You know what else comes out on October 20th, Cayman?
Oh, God.
Spider-Man 2 on the PlayStation 5.
Yep.
You know what comes out 3 days before October 20th, the Tuesday of that week? My current 1 or 2 most anticipated game of the near future, Alan Wake 2.
Yeah.
You know what comes out the week prior? Assassin's Creed Mirage. I can just keep going back and keep going forward. I found that after this direct, I'm sitting down, I'm looking at the calendar because, I'm a fucking weirdo. I have a note in my phone of the games that I'm looking forward to so that I can remember like which ones they are because there are so many of them. And I'm looking at this note and I'm like, I already don't have the time to be playing Final Fantasy 16, Diablo, and Tears of the Kingdom. Like right now, I'm just not playing Diablo because I want to start Final Fantasy, and Zelda is like one of the best games I've ever played. So like I just can't put it down. And I feel like it's going to be like that the rest of the year. Let me read a little bit for you, Cayman.
Please.
I put together a list of the major kind of AAA titles and then some of the indie titles too, because there are a lot of fucking great indie games coming out the rest of this year. And then I want to recap the games that have already come out, because the truth is 5 of those games are in my backlog right now. So like, let's just pull your car over, park it, grab your tea, grab your coffee, because Patty's about to start talking a lot. Cayman. Pikmin 4, July 21st. Immortals of Avium just delayed to August 22nd. Armored Core 6, Fires of Rubicon coming August 25th. Baldur's Gate 3 coming August 31st. Starfield, September 6th. Lies of P, September 19th. Mortal Kombat 1, also September 19th. 2 days later, Payday 3 on the 21st. We get a couple weeks off, and then October 10th, Forza Motorsport on the Xbox. Assassin's Creed Mirage on the 12th. Lords of the Fallen sequel on the 13th. Alan Wake 2 on the 17th. What we just said, October 20th, we're getting Marvel Spider-Man 2 and Super Mario Bros. Wonder, 2 of the most anticipated games of the year now. Like a Dragon Gaiden, The Man Who Erased His Name, November 9th. Super Mario RPG, November 17th. Avatar, Frontiers of Pandora, December 7th. Those are just the big games.
Yeah.
Bring in the indies, the smaller titles. We got Ghost Trick Phantom Detective, which is a cool-looking game coming out in 3 days on June 30th. Oxenfree 2, Lost Signals, a long-awaited sequel for like that we at some point thought maybe won't even come out, on July 12th. Viewfinder, that I talked about at the top of the show, on July 18th. The Expanse, Telltale's new return to video games, July 27th.
It's getting great reviews.
Which is The Expanse?
Yeah.
Yeah, people are saying Telltale's back. So I'm like, fuck, I want to play this game now.
Yeah.
Disney Illusion Island, July 28th. Not a game for me per se, but a lot of people are going to want to play that game. It's like Mario, but Disney. Stray Gods, the role-playing musical, August 3rd. Might not be a game we've talked about on this show, but I mean, the cast is Troy Baker, Ashley Johnson, fucking Lauren Bailey, Austin Wintory doing the music, Janina Gavankar. Like the cast is insane, and it's a game that I've never heard, like a game type that I've never heard of. Can't wait to play it. Texas Chainsaw Massacre, August 18th, a game that you're probably excited about.
Yeah, brother.
Fae Farm for our girl over at JK Games, Kayla, September 8th. Detective Pikachu, October 6th. Cities Skylines 2 for our boy Mondo that was on last week, October 24th. Metal Gear Solid Master Collection, Volume 1, October 24th. Persona 5 Tactica, November 17th. Those are just the games coming out later this year. Let's click rewind, Cayman. I'm not giving you dates this time for the sake of time. These are the games, the major games that have come out so far this year. Hi-Fi Rush, Dead Space Remake, Forspoken, Fire Emblem Engage, Hogwarts Legacy, Metroid Prime Remastered, Like a Dragon Ishin, everything on PSVR 2, Destiny 2 Lightfall, Octopath Traveler 2, Cayman. I can't believe we've not played that game. Resident Evil 4 Remake, Wolong Fallen Dynasty, Dead Cells Return to Castlevania, Chia, The Last of Us on PC, Horizon Forbidden West Burning Shores, Dead Island 2, Star Wars Jedi Survivor, Redfall, Tears of the Kingdom, Lego 2K Drive. I can't leave out Lord of the Rings Gollum, System Shock Remake, Street Fighter 6, Diablo 4, Crime Boss Rockay City, Aliens Dark Descent, a sequel to a game that Cayman and I enjoyed last year. I don't even think we had heard of, just came out. Crash Team Rumble, which is basically fucking Super Smash Bros. But Crash, Final Fantasy 16, Sonic Origins Plus. Are you fucking kidding me, Cayman?
So this was my fear, Patrick. So we'd had a few, because it would be kind of like, look, we're going in the last couple of years, right? Was like, all right, well, we're talking about Game of the Year contenders. And it was like, all right, cool. You already know who the Game of the Year contenders are going to be. So only going to be like 2 games.
Right.
That's been the last like 3 years.
Yeah.
The pandemic really fucked everything up. And there was a moment where I think a lot of people were like, hey, the pandemic, I definitely think that it's killing the games industry. Like it could potentially disrupt the games industry to a point that like this could be what it's like, is like we only get a couple big games a year now.
Yeah.
Just the way this works. And I didn't believe that. I was like, no, that's the games industry is not going to be killed off by something like this. There's going to be delays. There's going to be games get delayed. We have to be very, just cognizant and aware of our surroundings when it comes to this particular situation. We are now at the point where I think the games industry is caught back up.
Yeah, I think so too.
And this year is that situation where all of these games that have probably could have come out over the last couple of years are now all dropping at one time.
Yeah.
That's a problem to me. That's a big problem, Patrick.
Well, my question, I come at this in a few ways. And so the reason that I wanted to talk about this is because Cayman and I, and a lot of people that listen to this podcast, we're a niche of a niche where we love video games so much that we do want to play most of them that come out. And years past, like we do have a backlog, and I put most of us have a huge backlog. I put this up on Instagram. Like, do you think there are too many video games? Friend of the show, Sydney Alfredo, said, "How else am I supposed to build my collection of games I own and never play?" Which is like, that's very funny because I do the same thing. But it's like, I feel like those games that I don't get around to them kind of for a reason. And it's because they aren't good enough to get to the top of the pile.
Mm-hmm.
And my worry here is that I look through this list and I made the doc. So I selfishly bolded the games that I am interested in playing. And it's like 19 of them. And it's like, when I really take a step back, it's like, okay, let me cut the fat of that. It's like 11 of them. And I can't do it. And so my thought process on the question isn't necessarily, are there too many video games in a fun way? It's, are there too many video games in such a way that this will now impact sales, it will now impact profits, and it will cause a ripple that could cause certain games and studios to fail because the market is just saturated. And I feel like it's a kind of a thing we've wondered, like, will this happen? And then the pandemic happened and things dried up. And now I do think you're right. I do think that this is kind of a culmination of all of those teams needing to take another several months or years to get enough polish and enough time into their game that they can deliver a product that they're proud of and that they think will sell. But my question is this a fluke that all of these games, like Assassin's Creed Mirage, could have come out a year and a half ago, but the pandemic? Or is this what every year is going to look like? Because there are just so many people wanting to make games because of how profitable games can be. Are we about to get to I don't want to necessarily sound like a conspiracy theorist by any means, but like, are we about to get to like an ET level where there are so many games being made that they're just dumping them in the desert because no one's going to buy them? I don't think we're getting there. I don't want to sound like an alarmist, but it's like, there are so many games coming out that at any other year, if you just take five of these, I'm buying every single one of them. I don't even know that I'm going to buy 5 of them because I'm just not going to have the time for it. Am I making sense, Cayman?
No, I think you are spot on. I'm with you up to a point.
Okay.
I think the point where I'm like, nah, I don't think that we're like, the concern is that people are realizing how profitable games are, and therefore we're just dumping a shit ton of money into them. I don't think we're like, that's a concern that we should really have. Reason being is I think because we have to think of games on like a scale, right? Where you've got single A, double A, triple A. A lot of these games, I think that people are like, oh, we're just gonna cash in and shit like Lord of the Rings Golem, right?
Sure. Yeah.
Where it's like, look, the game's just dog shit. It shouldn't have come out. Probably shouldn't have even existed in the first place. It was just a cash grab. It was terrible, and people have already forgotten about it. But I think the problem we run into is more going to be the part where we have all of these games, especially rounding the corner in October, November area, that you have games like Alan Wake 2. I think that's the game that suffers more than anything else.
Sure.
I think games like Persona 5, like the Persona 5 game, I
Dead
think
on arrival.
that is going to suffer because of it. Now, do I think some of these studios are going to close because of it? Maybe not some of the larger ones, but I definitely think that you're going to see like the law of diminishing returns just kicks in.
Yeah. At some point it has to. Like the market has to there's so much product in the market that there just isn't enough demand.
Yeah. And so I think on one hand, you can look at this as a positive, right? Where you can be like, well, there's going to be a massive game for every type of gamer.
Sure.
And so if you look at it that way, you're like, great. But the problem is that the overlap of gamers who have interest in multiple games, and especially when we start talking about AAA games, where you're like, okay, we're going to have all within the scope of like 3 months, you're going to have Starfield, a new Mario game, Spider-Man, like big AAA games where like everyone wants to play that game, right?
Right. And something that I left off unintentionally, because I don't plan on playing it, but Call of Duty, like there's a new Call of Duty this fall that's going to have a whole new Warzone. And I mean, that is with games as a service. A lot of people don't have time for more than one game. And like, you can make the argument that people that play Call of Duty mostly only play Call of Duty, but it's not entirely true. Like there are a lot of people that dip into everything.
Here's the, I think the other part too, that I think also impacts gamers, but a different variety of gamers. You have the people who can only really afford like one game every couple months.
Right.
Okay. And what ends up happening is they're going to say, okay, these gamers are going to go, it's okay because these games will drop in price by the time I'm ready to get around to it. That's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The only reason that happens is because the game has sold well enough that like
now they're trying to,
they can try to get all the other people who weren't day one, or the game underperforms so much they have to try to recoup costs. But that's the problem is like, if we get to that point, right, where we're like, we're in that conversation of like, oh, we're recouping costs because holy fuck, this $200 million game bombed.
If all of these become Gotham Knights where it's $30 2 weeks in because they just need to sell it, then that's my worry, is that then a couple years from now, maybe we see half of the amount of games because because all of these people have investors, right? Like unless they're a truly indie studio and self-funded or crowdfunded, then you have your fucking Tencent up top or the Embracer Group. I mean, they've been all over the news lately because they bought. They're on record saying we got to make more Lord of the Rings games and exploit it because it's not being exploited enough. But and then all of a sudden they're trying to sell, their buyer falls through, and it's like red alert over there because now their funding is essentially gone. So I don't know. I do wonder though. It actually, I didn't consider this until we were just talking about it. Looking at this list, a lot of these games, not the majority of them, but a lot of them are on Game Pass. So I wonder if the folks, a lot of the video game players, whether they're casual or not, I raising a family, I'm raising myself. Like I don't have the means to buy several games a month, a year, whatever. But if I invest in an Xbox, if I don't already have one, and get Game Pass, I can get 30%, 40% of these games for $15 a month. So I wonder if maybe there's a world in which this is beneficial for one company and it's Xbox by way of Game Pass.
So then we start to trek in the territory of like all of the other conversation around Xbox right now, which, let's be honest, not great.
Not great.
Not
We've
great.
missed a lot on this show in terms
Yeah,
of
and we've
Xbox
kind of, and
Activision updates.
I mean, I would say too that I think we've also actively tried to avoid talking about this. It be mainly because like at a certain point, when you say the first thing, it's like, okay, well, by that point, we've already said enough.
Yeah.
But like now more shit's hitting, like coming out, and some of these internal emails are coming out, and we're starting. And then Sony's now finally actively chiming in because they're now part of this investigation and shit.
Right.
And it's not looking good. And so part of me now thinks like maybe Game Pass is the destructive force. But then too, here's the other thing though. And I don't think that this is something we've also talked about. If you have people like that, like I'm very curious. Because we've discussed this at great length. And I've done this. And I know you've said this before. With the Game Pass, I feel like I pick up a game, play it for 10 hours.
Oh, yeah. The Game Pass effect, I call it.
Fucking done. Right? I'm like, guys, I've seen enough. I'm good.
Yeah.
So my thing is Xbox is putting a lot of money.
Yeah.
So we're saving developers, which is great. Because developers, from what I've heard, are getting, small developers are getting paid out they're getting paid out where they're good. They don't give a shit. Like small developers are fine. Mid-tier to larger developers, from my understanding, from some of these things that have been said, might not be as good of an offer as some of these small developers are getting.
Yeah.
And then you got to think like, okay, so we're going to be launching all of these games on Game Pass. Either one of two things happens, right? Either one, how many people are actually fully playing these games?
Sure.
Or they're just touching it. So I would love to see those numbers. And I know Xbox will never release those numbers.
Unless the numbers are positive, they will not release.
They will never fucking tell you what's going on there. The other side is that if people are like, well, shit, at the rate that we're going, I can't afford to purchase games anymore.
Yeah.
I will go to the service that I can at least get them for $15 a month.
Yeah.
Then the disruption in the market.
Yeah.
And here's the thing. Here's the thing, Patrick. This doesn't affect Nintendo.
It sure doesn't.
It only affects one company.
Sure.
And the whole part of a lot of this conversation, and I don't want to really get in the weeds in this, is that part of that initial conversation, especially around Game Pass, was like, we have to essentially outspin Sony. We will spin Sony out of business.
Sure. Yeah, it's such an interesting wrinkle that I think is inherently intertwined with this question of, are there too many video games? But I want to bring in some folks in the audience, because some of our listeners had some kind of great insight that some matches ours and some doesn't. So Terry, kind of right on the mark with you, came in. I think the pandemic forced the market to drop everything at once, kind of unintentionally in a way, right? But I think we're seeing kind of the results of that. And I agree with Terry too. Lucas, yes, sobbing emoji. They're always being a new shiny to play has ruined my ability to finish games, or sometimes even like fully finish games. Like a recent example for me, Jedi Survivor. I beat the game. I would have loved to get the platinum and 100% it. I don't have time. I don't know that I will ever touch that game for the next 12 months. Maybe I will, but probably not. God of War Ragnarok earlier this year. Did a little bit of the post game, but not really very much of it at all. My brother commented, don't know that he's listening. If you are, hey, Andrew. Andrew says, yes, only because games nowadays are so good, you don't need that many. This kind of speaks to the games as a service model. Like if you're playing a Call of Duty, a Genshin Impact, a Fortnite, doesn't matter if there are 19, 20 games coming out this fall. You got your one and you're happy doing your one. So like for sure, like that, that totally aligns with that. And then Nick, this one was interesting to me. And I think I'm glad he said this, because I think it reminded me that it's not always about business, even though everything has business impact and business kind of fallout. He says, no, there are not too many video games, because video games are art. We need more art, not less, but we do need less Gollum and Redfall, which made me laugh. But I mean, I see his point in that there's never too much art. until you put on your business glasses and you grab your briefcase and you got to ask the question, like, this is a business, right? This is a market, and these are jobs, and these are people's livelihoods that this could potentially affect. And so I don't know. I'm just so interested by this thought and this question. I don't have the answer. I don't think either of us have the answer, but I just, for the sake of developers, for the sake of us, for the sake of gamers, I hope that I am making a mountain out of a molehill with this question, and there are not anywhere close to too many video games. I've been around the block with video games for a while. I started a fucking podcast with you because of how much I play and love video games. And I've never experienced a year like this before. I've never felt like I am drowning in video games, and it's only getting worse. And so I don't know. Maybe it's a thing, maybe it's not.
Patrick, I think the one thing we're also not mentioning that like is kind of the elephant that is just for probably the last year-ish, maybe more.
To clarify, is it the Mario elephant or just a different elephant?
We'll say the Mario elephant at this point.
Okay.
Is like the looming recession. And the fact that like
so-called.
So like if you sit there and you're like, oh, well, egg prices are finally dropped. Like, yeah, so like those small little adjustments, but like a lot of people are waiting right now for like, when is the bottom going to finally fall?
Right.
And a lot of people are being much more hesitant with what they're spending and trying to get prepped to be like, okay, if shit hits the fan, we have to be ready for this if something bad happens. And look, pandemic has pushed a lot of stuff off. So a lot of stuff that's dropping now is not because they're trying to take advantage of the market being the way it is. It's like, we have to release these games because we need to make our money back now.
That's a really interesting thought. That while people do have some money, let's get our games out so that they can buy as many, instead of, if it goes bad in 7 months when people they don't have a lot of excess spending money, probably not going to be buying very many video games. That's a really interesting thought. And I don't know, that then brings in I have my own kind of thoughts about this so-called impending recession that probably aren't super interesting for the podcast. It's that like self-fulfilling prophecy. Like, I feel like people are just saying it so much that like, well, okay, now we have to have a recession because everyone just keeps saying we're going to, and they've been saying this for like 2 years. But I don't know. That is something I also had not considered, and that's a really interesting piece of it.
So yeah, I feel like, look, I think the thing is like by Christmas, like we'll know how either good we're off or how bad we're off in terms of how this industry is functioning. Because we will start to get the numbers will start coming out, and we'll start to see like, okay, how did this perform?
Yeah. Like, are we going to see just everything is breaking records and I couldn't be more wrong? Or is that, because that is, games media loves that news story. Zelda, the fastest selling Switch title ever. Final Fantasy 16, the quickest Final Fantasy game to 1 million copies sold. Like, they fucking love that shit. So yeah, I wonder, like, are we going to get a lot of that this fall, or is it going to be more so like another game is out? And also, Hideo Kojima just tweeted a picture with Jean-Claude Van Damme. Like, I don't know, come on, bring JCV to the next.
We haven't, when you were in Japan when this happened, but Nicolas Cage is coming to Dead by Daylight.
He sure is.
He sure fucking is.
I was with Kojima-san when that dropped. And yeah, I didn't understand a word he said because I don't speak the language, but it made sense that a few days later we saw Nick Cage pop up on Hideo Kojima's Instagram at Kojima Studios with the Ludens man. So
yeah, it's Patrick. I think ultimately though, at the end of the day, we're in for a very interesting holiday season with the games industry. And if I were to say impart like any sort of wisdom or impart any sort of advice that I think I could give anyone who's in this situation, like Patrick and I are in, just play the games that you are the most excited about. Just do that. I think that's the thing, right? Like, just play the games you're most excited about. The big shiny new toy or FOMO is not going to service you this time around.
I'm living that right now in this exact moment.
There's way too many games And if you do that, I'm sorry, and I love you, and I'm trying to save your finances. You will bankrupt yourself trying to afford all of this shit.
Yeah.
Play the games that you are the most excited about. And then just don't get the new ones. Don't get the other ones until you're done with what you're playing.
Sure.
I know that sucks, but like,
yeah.
Because right now,
I'm gonna have to keep that advice right in my little ear because I'm gonna want to buy everything.
Yeah. So for me right now, Patrick, I'm like, okay, so I really, really, really want to play Final Fantasy 16. You know, I'm a huge Final Fantasy guy. And I'm like, I just bought a house and we're paying a shit ton of money on renovations. Our fucking bathroom, our basement bathroom flooded. I had to pay a lot of money to get that fixed. And I'm like, okay, so if I get this game though, like, here's my thing. This is my thought process. So I need you to either tell me I'm stupid or tell me I'm right. Diablo is going to be spent to play with my friends.
Okay.
Final Fantasy 16 is to be played when I'm by myself. And I have to separate the two. I have to play Diablo with my friends, and I have to play Final Fantasy 16 by myself. And if my friends say they want to play, I have to play the other. And if they don't want to play, I have to play and that's how I have to. I think that's the only way I'm going to be able to survive.
You know, I'm not going to sit here and call you stupid because I think that's a great idea. And in my opinion, you win in both ways. You spend more money and you play more games, which kind of goes against entirely what I just ranted about for 25 minutes. But here's my thing. So we're at 122, which we are running long, but I do want to ask you one more question. And it can be a relatively quick one. But so you weren't here last week when we recapped all of the big announcements, but we just went through everything coming out the rest of this year. Top 2, 3, 4, if you're nasty. What are you most looking forward to later this year that's coming out?
I don't know if it's coming out this year. I think it's coming out in 2024, but my number one anticipated game that was announced over the last couple weeks Cat Quest 3.
Hell yeah.
Like, seriously, I know that sounds insane because
Pirates of the Caribbean, I think.
Oh, fuck yeah. And they had goddamn Matt Berry. Doing
it's
fucking
gonna be great.
Okay, here's the thing. I know that sounds ludicrous because you're like, came in Starfield, came in Spider-Man, which don't get me wrong. I'm so excited about Spider-Man and I'm very hesitant about Starfield. Believe me, we all need to be concerned about Starfield. That's a conversation for a different day, and prove me wrong, Starfield, when you come out. But guys, buckle up for a fucking ride when that game drops.
Yeah.
Cat Quest 3 is going to be perfection on launch. Perfection.
Yeah.
I love Cat Quest so much. And when that announced, dude, I lost my shit. Because the thing is, every time I do it, I always like tweet at the game gentlemen bros who are the developers behind Cat Quest. They're like the nicest people on Twitter. Like they're so excited that people
protect them at all costs.
Yes, they are the most innocent humans, and they will always respond, and they're always so sweet and like thankful that you play their games. Cat Quest 3 being shown off at a fucking massive Sony event.
Pretty big.
Oh, fuck yeah. Also go play Cat Quest 2. And if you got a significant other, play it with them because it's the perfect co-op game.
Perfect. I played both Cat Quests because you told me to, and I had a great time. Platinum them both.
What is yours? I don't think we've talked about like your most anticipated game.
We've not really. It's tough. Like I don't want to be greedy and like list all of them, but I'm really excited for Alan Wake 2. I really want to see what Remedy is doing with Alan Wake 2. It looks like it's going to be a fucking dope horror game. What I said last week with Mondo, like I am not very excited for Spider-Man 2, but the second it comes out, it's all I'm going to want to play. Like, because it's just more Spider-Man, which is really all I want. But like nothing they've shown me has been like Spider-Man 2 can't fucking wait. And like that's probably going to change as we get closer to it, but
that's crazy.
It's a known quantity.
That's I mean, I guess maybe the known quantity thing, but like I don't know, when I watched that trailer I was like,
it looks incredible, don't get me wrong. It's probably coming across that like I wasn't impressed. I was. It's just like there's so much new that's what I'm being drawn to, is the new. But I guarantee you I'm playing Spider-Man 2 before I'm playing Super Mario Bros. Wonder on October 20th for sure. And I might end up, in fact, I probably will end up being very disappointed, but I can't help but just be fucking blitzed about Starfield right now. Like that 45-minute deep dive, it got me. And I'm so ready for it.
I know it's like we're recording, it's 9:30. Can we end the recording and then immediately record another episode just to talk about Starfield?
We could.
Because I'm telling you, man, the way I'm looking at Starfield right now is like, I hate to admit it, guys, I've got massive Fallout 76 vibes.
See, what I'm afraid of is cyberpunk. I hope we're not getting cyberpunked. Spelled like the old
Ashton
Ashton
Kutcher
Kutcher
busts out of a spaceship and is like, grr.
Right, exactly. I just hope that, and what I mean by that is that when we get it on September 6th or September 3rd, if you pay for early access or whatever, that it doesn't end up just feeling like nothing they showed us. That's my biggest concern, is that not that they're lying, but that they're lying.
Yeah,
because it looks like the most ambitious thing like I've ever seen, and I'm just I'm afraid. But if they nail it, dude, I really don't know how I'll play anything else, because it looks like that would. It looks like,
Patrick, 500 hours allegedly.
I'm not surprised by that. If there's over 1,000 planets and 10% of them have life, that's 100 planets, dude. That's a fuck ton of shit. But maybe it'll be too big. Like, maybe it'll be so big that I'm just completely like uninterested. But I don't know. And then I'm an Assassin's Creed boy, so like I want Assassin's Creed Mirage to be dope.
Honestly, I kind of was like, feel like a lot of these AAA games like looked really exciting, but there were so many cool indie games that I was like,
yeah. Special shout out to, I already kind of gushed about it a little bit, but Stray Gods, the role playing musical, like it looks so fresh, like it looks so different than anything.
What's the game? I'm trying to remember the name of it. Something the Squire, where it's like your
Plucky Squire.
Plucky Squire
looks fucking awesome.
Oh, fuck yeah, bro.
That didn't make my list. It should have. It should have been on this list.
Damn. Yeah, I think I'm more excited about the indie games this time around than I am really AAA games.
I wonder, maybe it didn't make my list because it's not coming out. I might have just missed it though. Like this year, I mean, in 23. But yeah, let us know. I mean,
like a dragon trailer, like a dragon, like a dragon. What was the subtitle of
it? They changed it.
It's like something fuck, I can't remember the name, but goddamn, Naked Ichi.
Come on. Like a Dragon, Infinite Wealth.
Yeah, dude. 2024 though, thank fucking God.
Yeah.
2024, dude.
Yeah. Well, let us know, what are you excited about? Which game are you most excited about for the rest of this year? Because there's a fuck ton of them. We went 90 minutes. I hope that you enjoyed. Cayman, thank you for being here with me. I mean, come on. If you didn't expect this to go an hour and a half the first time we've made a podcast together in 4 weeks, you're a fucking idiot.
It's crazy.
I said it and I meant it, but like it was said with love. If you want to follow the pod, Spot Games Pod on Twitter, Spotlight Games Pod on Instagram, TikTok, YouTube, Twitch. Cayman, where can the folks at home follow you bastard?
You can follow me at No, it's not Kid Cayman anymore. It's the Dumpster Boy on Twitter. And if you want to follow Safe Trash Cinema, we're gonna have a new episode coming out soon. Or if you want to listen to old episodes, there's a shit ton of them. That's at Safe Trash Cinema on all socials.
Remember, fight big box office, Save Trash Cinema.